Hello, everybody. Welcome to the B&H event space. So, guys, just imagine just a world with no pictures, no digital images. How would you capture your memories? Well, guys, my name is Chrystofer Davis. If some of you follow me on Instagram or any other social media, you guys will know my name is Dola Photo. I'm a Newark, New Jersey native who specializes in street photography, portraits, fashion, and architecture. Okay, so I've been photographing for about 10 years now. I worked with major brands such as Fubu, Puma, Foot Locker, Lids, Cousins Maine Lobster, and more. I've actually had some of my work broadcasted on national television by MTV and VH1, in addition to it being published in Vogue Italy or Vogue Italia, and also with Kodak. Photographed celebrities and public figures such as Jonah Hill, Damon John, and Michelle Obama. Okay? So, why are we here? I know I'm here, man. Well, this seminar that B&H and I pretty much collaborated on, it's just to basically put together this seminar to better enhance your photography and to reinvigorate your passion for photography, and that's just by going back to the roots of shooting film. Okay. Now, before I get into anything else, I want to start with a little trivia. I got some film up here for you guys. If anybody can get this question right. The only person who is excluded is Gabe in the back, because I know that he knows this answer. So 2 questions. Okay. So the first question is going to be for HB5. Okay. Where was celluloid film first made? The flexible film that we still use today. If anybody can give me a location of where it was actually first manufactured.
New York.
Nope.
Rochester.
Nope.
France.
France? No.
Italy.
Nope.
Germany.
No.
Newark.
So, nope. You said what?
Newark.
Newark? You're absolutely right. Sorry, I didn't mean to throw that. Okay, so you already know that it was made in Newark, but who made it? This is for the Ektachrome 100. Nobody?
Kodak.
Nope.
Hacker.
Nope. Nope. It's strange. It's quite great that you said Kodak, but later on the line they kind of got sued for copyright infringement, but that's a story for another time. All right, so yes, celluloid film, the film that we use today, was manufactured in Newark by Hannibal Goodwin. Now, Hannibal Goodwin, he was a reverend in Newark. Basically, he manufactured this type of celluloid film to create images for Bibles for kids. Just that way that they can, he can get their attention, because nowadays kids, they don't like to pay attention, they'll just look away or whatever, but he used this in his practice and his studies. And primarily the reason why, I'm so passionate for film and that I go so hard for film is because of where I'm from. I'm from the birthplace of film. And I do encourage you guys to actually go out there. If you guys, take the train to Newark Broad Street, as soon as you get right off, it's right there. Everything's embedded in the wall of that actual church in that place. That's going to let you know that this was the birthplace of film and that this helped, advance photography to pretty much where we're at right now. Okay? Now, I want to get into a little bit about my journey with photography and, what made me get into shooting film. Okay? Now, I feel like with all of us, we have some kind of similarities or a similar story of how we got into photography or film. And for me, it pretty much started out with one of these disposable film cameras. Anybody raise their hand, use one? So everybody's in here pretty much used one. So basically my first story of how I fell in love with photography was on a trip to the Bahamas with my parents. Now, pretty much I would say I was about maybe 9 or 10. I went out with my parents. We were like on this taxi boat. If you guys ever went to Nassau, you know about the boats under the bridge. You can get on and go into, basically the downtown area. So we're just riding. My mom, she has one of these. She's taking pictures, and I thought to myself, why not just take a few pictures, while we're here on vacation now. So, I kindly asked like, hey mom, it's okay if I can, get this from you, shoot a little bit, whatever. She was like, sure. So I'm around here, and I'm over here smelling the seawater. If everybody can just breathe in, you can smell that seawater with me. I mean, I know we're in here, but still, use your imagination. And pretty much, I'm over here taking a landscape view, a downtown area, take a little picture of the water. But I feel like the one thing that struck out to me is that, so with this boat, it's like a double-decker kind of boat. So it's like stairways that goes up to the top, and you can look outside or whatever. But like unconsciously, like I'm not thinking about composition, but the way I just composed this shot, it was the stairway, and with the sun just right there. And I got down right here, and I was just like click, and then I kind of knew I wanted to get into photography, right? So fast forward, high school. This is like my senior year. I'm in social studies class, and we just have a free period. Nothing really going on. Everybody's just goofing around, playing around, whatever. My social studies teacher, his name is Kwahim Muhammad. He was pretty much like a well-known photographer and video maker around, the Newark, New Jersey area. And pretty much he told me just come up to his desk, and he said, hey, here, like take this. Hands me his Canon 5D. He says, just go around school, take a few shots for the yearbook. Did that, and then right away I knew I just wanted to get into photography. Okay? So now fast forward to college. While I was coming in, I wanted to study photography and have that as my degree, but as I was coming in, they were basically canceling that program. I think it was just due to the actual market and how easy it is for some people to get into photography. So I went on with the next best thing, which was digital video. And then throughout my years there, networked with a few people. After I graduated, got into the industry, started working with all these different brands and getting that experience. But part of me was just like, I needed to find something that would be a bit more challenging for me. So it's not that I didn't love my images. I may have like a little bit of skill there, keep my camera in aperture priority mode, because that's all I know. So I figured, you know what, let me try going back to the roots and try shooting film. So this must have been around 2013, 12. Was going on a trip to Barbados, where my family's from. Figure I'll go out there, catch a few images, had a little lomography, fisheye camera, figure out, get a cool shot there, get a cool shot there. Put it in the film, no problem. Taking this image, no problem. As soon as I get to CVS, back then when they had the 1 hour, developing times, which is like hard to find nowadays, went there, dropped it off, came back an hour later. I said, hey, like I want to see like my images or whatever. He told me that there's nothing there. So spending all that time thinking I'm composing this great image, nothing was there. I was pretty heartbroken at that moment. I felt like I knew everything, but I really didn't. So from there, I was just like, you know what? Forget film. I don't need it. It's dying out. I got digital. I can take 50 million images and be okay with it. But later on in life, I was just like, you know what? I don't want that experience to defeat me. Like I want to, defeat it and become the greatest at it in my own kind of way. So throughout my journey with film, I came across like a few things of like just learning just how to shoot with it and just creating the same, even exposure each time without having to like second guess myself. Okay. So now I want to just kind of share that experience with you guys and kind of learning. So just keep in mind that with this class, there's 3 levels. It's basic, intermediate, and advanced. Now I know that there's some seasoned veterans in here who may know a few of the things that I'm going to go over because some of them are a bit basic, but just keep in mind that there's a lot of people that's in here who are at the very basic level and don't know anything about shooting film, or they may not know what the basics are when it comes to shooting with a camera. Okay, so just keep that in mind. All right. So how film helped me become a better digital photographer. And pretty sure with a lot of the seasoned veterans that they get this question all the time. What's that one question that you may get a random DM about? If anybody can tell me. What kind of camera do you shoot with? So one is understanding the camera. Okay. Now, here you have two film cameras, right? So one's an SLR, which into today's time you already know it as a DSLR, and then one's a rangefinder. Now, definitely I get that question a lot that, like, hey, what's the best film, like, what's the best camera, just in general, not even film, what's the best camera to start off with? And simply, I just tell them that the camera that you feel most comfortable with, the one that inspires you to shoot. Because I can say, hey, you can go pick up a Leica M6 at the Leica store and you'll be all right. But at the end of the day, if it doesn't inspire them, if they're not comfortable with the ergonomics of the actual camera, the camera's just gonna be sitting there. And I've had plenty of people, they ask me this question, they pick up the camera for about 3 months and then they put it down, maybe because they're inspired or they don't know how to use it. Now, you have to learn just the in and outs of your camera. Now, obviously, you see that these two cameras are Canons. So one's SLR and then one's a rangefinder. So for me, starting out, of course, I traditionally use the SLR, and this is the Canon AE1. So definitely, as I'm shooting, I'm seeing that there are some advantages to it, and that I can see what's in the actual frame. I can compose it. I can take portraits. It's no problem. It's a perfect portrait camera. But for me, when I was starting to get into street photography, I found that it was like a bit difficult for me, that I kept looking in here for too long. I couldn't see my subject coming in. I was always missing that shot. And quite frankly, it was big. It was almost just like this size. I'm trying to get a picture of somebody, but they seem like, hey, like, don't take a picture of me or whatever. So then that's when I found this little Canon net. It's a rangefinder. It's a lot different. It's almost, like I said, it's pretty much the same as a Leica M6, which is a rangefinder. So the only thing that you're doing is just viewing through this viewfinder. You're not going to see, where exactly, what you're actually going to be taking a picture of. And for me, that was a bit challenging and difficult, but I want to overcome, that fear or that difficultness and just be more comfortable with it. And I found out that shooting street, I felt a lot more comfortable with this or the Canon net because I knew the ergonomics of it. It inspired me to go and shoot. I'm taking this thing to dinner with me. I'm just like, listen, I want to capture anything I see because this camera gets me out to go out and shoot. Also learning about the different types of lenses that you have. So with the A1, this one was a 28 millimeter, which is wide. I'm not used to shooting like super wide, maybe like 50, maybe 35. And it has opened up a lot of different options for me to try and compose different images with that particular focal length. And a lot of people, we get DSLRs and we have a zoom lens, we can just go in and out to whatever focal length we want. But I feel like when you set yourself to that one focal length, like you'll be able to train yourself within that. You'll know how to compose a proper image with that in your own right. To whereas though with the Canon net, this was a 40 millimeter, which is like weird because it's like, it's wide as a 35, but it's almost narrow as a 50. So it's like kind of that in between. And that was a little bit different for me, but I was able to compose different images within that range. So I feel like the most important thing is whenever you're looking to get into film or photography in general, if some people are just enthusiasts, is to go ahead and just find the right camera that's going to inspire you to go out and shoot every day. Like I said, you want to almost date the camera. You want to take it everywhere you go. Okay, so now we're moving on. And now here's another basic one that a lot of seasoned veterans know, is understanding ISO. Who in here has heard of ISO? Raise your hand. Okay. So what is ISO? ISO is measuring the light sensitivity in the film. So the film sensitivity in your film or your digital sensor. Okay. Now here's like a good diagram. I'm not sure if anybody's hungry for some apples, but the apples are here. So you already see here that there's a wide range of, something that's dark and something that's light. So pretty much when you're seeing like an ISO of 2000, it's pretty much going to be less sensitive to light. And so I found this scale to better explain this. Now with film, I think the lowest ISO I've ever found was maybe 6, which is like almost just less sensitive to anything. So you're going to be exposing that film for a very long time. But with a lot of cameras, they may allow you to go to 100 or 200. So you already see on the left hand side where you see like the lower scales of the ISO. So less sensitive to light, will capture less light. More light will be needed for a good exposure, and you'll find less noise and grain. How many people like seen like taking a shot and see like, oh, I just hate that grain. It's just like, oh, it just doesn't look so good with this image. So you may want to go on the lower end if you're trying to, diminish that noise. But if you look far over to the right, you're going to see that a scale which is going to be from 1600, 32, 6400. Now I don't. There's like no film that's actually 6400, but I know that you can push film. I mean, I know a lot of you may not know about pushing film, but on the right-hand side, you're going to see that when you see the ISO scale go up to like 6400, you're going to see that it's more sensitive to light. This will capture more light. Less light will be needed for a good exposure, but you're going to get more noise and grain. Okay, so I just wanted to show you some examples of me working with different ISOs in film. And I think that with film, it doesn't let you cut any kind of corners. And you can't change the ISO like you can in a digital camera. So being confined to like that one ISO, it helps you just become so more versatile within that range. So you already know that, okay, if I'm shooting 100 ISO film, I know how to handle this particular situation without any problems. So to the left, I do have, this is Ektachrome 100. So this was a studio shot. This was with like the studio light that they use for theater, and it had barn doors. So I pretty much just closed it and I just composed this image. With Ektachrome, it's a slide film. It's not a color negative film, so you have to be careful whenever you're shooting. Who knows in here like the difference between like RAW and JPEG? Right. So pretty much with JPEG, you can't do any kind of like serious editing to it. And that's kind of how like slide film is. So it's pretty much you have to get that exposure like on point each time. So as a color negative or even a RAW, you can manipulate, it some type of way. I know with digital, it's a lot more easier. And then to the right, I have my friend Adam. We were just like out late night, like 12 o'clock. We just figured we'd just go out and shoot. This is Super-E 1600. That particular film is discontinued at this very moment, which makes me very sad because I started to love it. But you can already see that how easy it is to capture the light that's already within that ambiance. Because this is like the chicken shack that's right here. So you already got the light that's coming off of him. And then there's a red light that's coming down right there. So, and that makes it a lot much easier to capture those particular subjects in that environment. Okay? Now moving on. Understanding shutter speed. What is shutter speed? It's the measurement of how long the shutter remains open when a picture is taken. So the slower the shutter speed, the longer the exposure time, and the faster the shutter speed, the shorter the exposure time. So now, got this little stick figure that's over here, if you guys can see it. Now, you already see that, like numbers, right? You'll see 500th of a second, 250th of a second, 125th of a second. So like you see that in the first top row that, the stick figure, he's pretty much in motion. He's already stopped. You already see him. But as you start coming down to this lower line here, and almost right here, you'll start to see that it looks like he's almost in the Matrix or something like that. He's just like, just like this. So pretty much whenever you're going to those slower shutter speeds, you're going to capture a lot more motion in there. And depending upon, what you're actually trying to capture and compose, that may not be good for, let's say, if I'm over here and I'm trying to capture a portrait of somebody and I have it all the way down at 8, you better pray to God that I'm like still, because there's going to be some motion blur that's in there. And also from here, you can already see a scale of those exposure times. So obviously you see that in like the so this is 250th. So no, just a 250th of a second that it's super dark, and that I can't really see what exactly you're trying to show me, and it's not looking too well. to as though when you go all the way down here, you're going to see that it's super bright and it looks kind of crazy there. So, like I said, anywhere between these lines, like I said, you can determine what is, satisfactory for you and how you're going to compose your image. And also here's an example of a shutter dial. So you'll have like 1,000, which is being like the highest, the lowest being 1, and B for bulb. And bulb is pretty much when you press the shutter, it stays open. As soon as you let it go, it'll close. So you have control of the timing of your exposure. Okay, and I just wanted to give an example. Now, this past week, I did collaborate with an organization in Newark called Newark First Fridays. It's basically there to help bring the community out, to give them activities to do, and just to have fun, within their city. So I hooked up with the coordinator named Isaiah Little, and he wanted to create a photo lunch party, just so that members of the community could come in, they can have their professional photos taken, and use them professionally. Maybe want to use it for your profile, I don't know. But just to show like the actual shutter speed. Now this is studio lighting. A lot of people may not know how to work studio lighting or whatever. So this was like a pro photo light. This was a D1, powers up to 7. But pretty much what she was trying to capture was just her, flinging her shirt around and trying to capture it just like in midair. Now, I believe that this was 200 of a second, so you can already see that it's already pretty still and the shutter is like pretty fast like that. Now, if it was any kind of slower, you would have actually seen that motion that was in there, along with some kind of, brightness, or even so it being washed out. Okay, so now moving on to the next thing is aperture. What is aperture? It is the measurement of the size of the opening in the lens that can be used to control the amount of light reaching the film or the digital sensor, and it also controls the depth of field. Okay, so you can see this man just like Rico Suave in a sense. So now you can kind of get an actual sense of what the aperture does. So pretty much your aperture is like, it's right here. If you guys can like pretty much see like where, like in the middle here is your aperture blades. A lot of seasoned veterans already know what this is. So pretty much you're just like opening and closing that, and that's going to help you pretty much determine how much light you're going to be letting into your camera. Because all this camera is just a light box, and you're just controlling it, and you're going to determine how much light you're going to be letting in. But also on the flip side of that, it's going to control your depth of field. Now I know that some of our smartphones, they have this this mode called portrait mode. It gives you kind of like a creamy kind of background. In photography, we call it bokeh. I know there's like different terminologies for it, but pretty much that creates the blur in the background. Now, pretty much from what you see here, it says that at the smallest number, which is 1.4, you're going to get a lot more of that bokeh and that blur in the background. To whereas though if you see right here, so it says f22, so your aperture of 22, you're going to get everything in field. And that's going to determine like the style of, the kind of maybe image that you're trying to portray. And also with traditional film cameras, you have your aperture right here, and you have basically determining, if you're going to measure your distance within feet or within meters. Now, can somebody in the audience tell me what exactly this is, if there's anybody who knows what this is?
Depth of field.
Depth of field scale. So pretty much when you're looking at the depth of field scale, so let's say I'm out street shooting, I see a gentleman walking this way, but I have this film camera, it's not autofocus, so how exactly am I going to get him in focus while he's moving? So pretty much if you see that there's numbers on each side, so you see 16 at the further ends, then as you start to see like the numbers get smaller, they start to close further in. So pretty much this is going to determine that your particular aperture and your particular distance, that's going to tell you what the distance is and what's going to be in focus. And for me, it's a lot easier for me to focus when I'm street shooting I can literally just walk up, notice somebody's coming this way, I can just go like this, and that's pretty much it. They're in focus. But as you can see, so if you look at the aperture of 8, it's like in between 4 and 11, you'll see that from infinity all the way to about 10 feet, whatever is in that distance is going to be in focus. What's the next thing? Okay. And also, I want to go ahead and just give you an examples of how I use aperture in certain situations. Now, to the image on the left, this was on my medium format camera, which is a Mamiya RB67 Pro S. And I'm just walking from Penn Station. I think me and my friend Chris, we were coming back from maybe like New York or something like that, just going around shooting. And I just see this guy. He just like walks up, and I was like, hey, can I actually like take your portrait real quick? I'm like, look pretty cool. You're looking for the culture, man. So, he's already, he's draped up in his Louis Vuitton do-rag. He has his Tommy Hilfiger bag. He has a Fila jacket. And, I want to just try to portray just him and just like showing that he's a part of, the urban culture and the popular, clothing. So me determining how I was going to compose this image was that I didn't really like the background as much. I mean, it's Penn Station, Newark. I mean, it's special, but it's not really that special. So I decided, I have to boost up my aperture to create this blur in the background and keep him in focus. And seeing here, I actually was able to do that. Now to the image to the right, this is a campaign shot that I've done with Fubu and Puma. So pretty much just me thinking back, this is when I was starting to get really adjusted with film and my particular way of shooting. And I already knew that what I wanted to portray in this image was that I wanted to have, this couple here, draped down in their Puma Fubu gear, but I also want to try to, show what was in the background. You see the bridge, you see the park that's in the background, so it kind of looks, New Yorkish. That's something I wanted to portray. So I already knew that in my mind that I had to keep, everything, in the background. So I believe that this particular image was maybe like F8 or F11. Kind of looks like it was about 2 years ago, but I already knew that I want to just compose this image and keep everything, within focus and within view, rather than how, the images on the left where everything's blurred out. All right, so next, going on, rules and expressions in photography. Now, starting with film, I had to figure out a way, how exactly am I going to, have even exposures? Now, dealing with the Canonet, some of those cameras, it can vary because the light meter inside can die, and you pretty much just have to figure out a way, how you're going to, expose your image properly. Now, I could have went out and bought, like a $250 light meter, but I wasn't within that range yet, and I was like, I'm not gonna do that. I'm gonna try to figure out another way. All right, so there's two things that I want to just point out that helped me within my journey of creating proper exposures, and that's one, the Sunny 16 rule. Okay, and second, F8 and be there. And I just want to just talk a little bit about these two. Now, the Sunny 16 rule, it's a method of estimating the correct daylight exposures without a meter. So I'm going to go ahead and show you guys a diagram. So this is pretty much how you can create proper exposures with the Sunny 16 rule. Now, we have a chart here. I want to show a little bit of love to this side, hopefully. You guys will appreciate that. Now, you see on the left-hand side that you have your ISO ratings. So you have 100, 200, 400, 800, 1600. Now you're going to see these different kinds of figures that's up here within this bracket. So you're going to see a symbol that looks like water. I know it's pretty small, but it says water, sand, snow, sun. And down here you're going to see that there's an aperture of 22. Okay? You go over, you're going to see shadows, bright sun, hazy, bright sun, poor lighting, cloudiness, no shadows, and then late night sunset. Now, a lot of that, and even the rule itself, it pretty much speaks for itself. Sunny 16 rule. If I know it's sunny outside, no clouds out, it's a beautiful day, I can go to the beach, I can go out for a nice ice cream, I'm going to set my aperture to 16. Now, depending upon what kind of uh, film speed that I have, let's say if I'm shooting a 100 speed film, I'm going to go ahead and look at this chart here, and it tells me that, okay, if I know that it's super sunny outside, I'm going to keep my aperture at 16, and I'm going to keep it at 1/25 of a second. And pretty much what you're doing through here, and here's another diagram. So pretty much what you're doing right here is like a manual version of aperture priority. So pretty much what you want to do is, so let's say if you do have a 400 speed film, you're going to keep the shutter speed at 500, and as you're looking at whatever lighting situation that you have, all you're going to do is just change your aperture, and that's going to help you get an even exposure. Okay, so even in the diagram below, it still shows you bright, hazy sun, light, sand, or snow. And that's that. Okay, now F8 and B there. This is some for like some of the advanced guys. They already know this. Probably seen it plenty of times. So F8 and B there is an expression popularly used by photographers as representing the importance of taking the opportunity for a picture rather than concern for technologies which one does so. Okay. Now photographer, photojournalist Arthur Weege Felig used this term. And there's Weege. Okay. Now I want to show a bit of my examples of using F8 and B there. So as you can see here that there's a flipped over car with a police officer, sitting right behind it. Well, has his car parked behind it. Now within that moment, I was just like, I'm dropping my son off, to school, and I'm just like, listen, I need to go ahead and capture this really quickly. So pretty much I just left it at F8. And all I'm doing right now is just changing the shutter speed. So I believe this was Fuji C200. So I believe that this was maybe 2/50th of a second. And I knew I captured it right away because seeing that kind of moment, Toto could have pulled up and just got it at any time, and then I would have just missed my shot trying to figure out what exactly am I trying to do and how do I want it to look. Okay, and then the next example, I have this son with his father holding him, and they pretty much have like the same kind of hats. Now this was the second attempt. So now, as I'm walking, so if you guys know Newark, about Broad and Market. So I'm over here, just walking across the street, and then, I see the son. He's like, he's not even like this at this point. He's just like laying over, like just being like a sack of potatoes. And I'm just like, wow. But it's already like super sunny. I already know, okay, I have to put it to 16. So I got it, but the angle was just a bit off. So right now, as they're walking from sunlight into the shade, from the actual building, I'm like, okay, I have to put it to 8. I have to put it to 8. And I'm just waiting on this moment for him to like look up at me and just like pose or something. I'm like, come on, I don't want to miss this shot. He finally did it, and then I caught the shot. And listen, if I ever so happen to pass away, I just want you guys to remember me for that shot, because that's it took some patience. All right, and then now moving on, how to use ISO, shutter speed, and aperture together. Now, you can definitely look on Google. You'll see how exactly do I make all three of these operate. Now there's a rule to where it's like a triangle. You'll see that there's shutter speed on one side, ISO, and then aperture. Now for me, trying to figure out for my first time how to properly expose my film, I'm like, this is kind of confusing. I don't know what correlation does this thing have to do with or whatever, but I found something that was a bit more simpler to understand. And it's the bucket analogy. How many advanced guys know about the bucket analogy? Anybody here know about the bucket analogy? Yeah. All right. See? Man, Brett. Okay, so with this, it helps to give the user an alternative idea of how to properly expose the image, respectively. Now, here's to kind of give you a general idea of what the bucket analogy is, okay? So If you see right here, the tube size, it's going to be the actual aperture. So whether if you have, have it wide open or if you're having it closed, that's going to determine, the size of your tube. The shutter speed is the valve. So how quickly do I have to turn it on, turn it off? Okay? The water is obviously the light, and the ISO is the bucket size. So back to this. If I'm using a 100 speed film, the bucket is going to be a bit bigger. And I know that I'm going to have to go ahead and open up the valve, let in a little bit more water till it fills up, and then close it. Now, with digital, you can go up to what, 25,600 or something of that nature? So guess what? That bucket is going to be like this small. So you already know that, okay, I may have to have a small tube or a big one, depending, but I know that I have to open it, close it as quickly as possible so it doesn't, overfill or get washed out. Okay? Now, here's to give you just a general idea. I'm going to show the right some love right now. So you already see that, so it's the same model within this picture here. See the one on the left, she looks a bit dark. So obviously, when you're looking at the bucket, it's halfway there. When you're looking in the middle, you'll see that the water is perfectly filled to the top and that we have an even exposure. Now, to the furthest of the right, we have a bucket that has a little bit of water and a little bit of leakage there. And what do we have here? A washed out image. Now, with me being in the dark room and actually like knowing how to make silver gelatin prints, I know that in most cases that when you see like an overexposed image, now the kind of analogy that I use, that if your bucket is too full or if it's overflowing, you can just pour out just a little bit just to try to get that even exposure. And it works sometimes, but not with slide film. If you overexpose it, you're pretty much done. Try again. Okay? Next, resources. So I want to provide some of the resources that help me with making proper exposures and having references. Okay? So some of the two resources that I use that were very important to me in my process. There's a photographer by the name of Mike Padua. Shouts out to him. He follows me on Instagram. He's a cool dude. And now he has a Shoot, Film, and Co's photographer's memo. And another very important resource that was great for me is a book called Flavors by Gustav Kahler. Now, this is the photo memo that I got from Mike Padua. This was a great resource for me. I want to pass it over to you, and you can pass it around. Everybody can take a look at it. I think it's a great resource. So if you're looking at the screen here, I'm not sure if it's too bad to see, but you have all these different things that are here. So you have what number roll is this? What was the start date that I started shooting this film? What was the end date? What was the camera that I was using? What lenses or what lens was I using in this particular environment? You also have the film, the ISO that you were shooting at, the subject that you were shooting, the location, whether, in my book, I actually put that, whether if it was overcast or super bright, so I can get a better idea of what exactly was I shooting. Also for the advanced guys, you can see that you have a checkbox for whether you're gonna be pushing film or pulling it, and by how many stops. And once you get it developed, you're gonna see that, okay, I got it processed, I got it scanned, and I have it fully archived. Now, in the book, if you guys will, to check it, have a chance to check it out, pretty much numbered the exposures that was in the film, so you can either get 24 or 36. So I basically just numbered it down, and I basically just created a system for me where, okay, I put, what exactly was I capturing? What aperture did I have it at? What was the shutter speed? Did I use a flash or not? So I'll put like a little lightning bolt there to give me a reminder of what I actually shot on the actual shot of film. And as soon as I get it back, I usually get it back with prints. So that way I can look through shot 1, shot 2, shot 3, shot 4, and figure out, in this particular environment, was this the proper aperture and shutter speed that I use for that particular environment. And I feel like coming from a digital background first, I felt that I should have just notated my shots first, or just take down what exactly did I do in this particular situation to make sure that in any situation that's given, I can make this exact shot at the same exact moment. So when you get this kind of book and you're notating it, you're actually training your eye to read light. So I can look at you and I can possibly say that, okay, if I set my camera to 1.4, even though like the light is a little bit backlit, I may have to do it at maybe a 30th of a second, possibly. And then except from right there, you already know which particular environment that you're in, that you can create this proper exposure, and that's no problem. You're already visualizing how exactly it's coming out without any problems. Like you're not just sitting here just saying, okay, the camera is going to get it. I don't have any kind of involvement with it, but you do want to have some kind of involvement with it. You want to push yourself to that limit. You want to become a better photographer. So this is one of like the main resources that I have. I just recently checked back on the site. I'm thinking about getting another one for when I get into like large format, and yeah, it's for about like $9. You get two with a pencil, which is pretty cool. So definitely it's a great resource. But if not, you can always use a notebook, whatever works for you. And then here's this book. I'm sorry for all my Android guys or people out there, but it's not available on any kind of Android site. At least, that's from what I know. But I feel like with this particular book, it was such a great help for me to understand, okay, if I buy this particular film, if I push it, if I pull it, what kind of results will I get in a particular environment? So when I'm looking at this book here, I'm going to show you guys some love over here, that this tells me, okay, this is Kodak Portrait. This gives me a pretty much a brief description of the actual film. You have it right here where you're showing, maybe it was undershot, maybe this is an even exposure, then maybe that's blown out. Just so that way you can get an understanding of how the film works. How does it work with particular colors? You'll see that maybe Kodak Portrait is not so heavy and so strong on the reds, so if you're going with Kodak Aperture, you may be getting a little bit more punchy colors. You might get, an increase in reds and yellows of that nature. And also, for my black and white people, you also have another reference, from where you're shooting black and whites. So obviously, we can see that there's differences between the film that's on top, which is Japan Camera Hunter JCH 400. You'll see that this one is super contrasty, super black. So you'll already know that you have to be super careful whenever you're shooting with this film. And then lastly on the bottom, which is Kitmer 400, you'll see that there's not a lot of contrast, there's grays in between. So that way you can get an understanding that, okay, this is maybe how I want my black and white shots. And you guys just need to know that all black and whites, aren't the same. You'll definitely get different looks. I've had different situations where I shot a black and white photo with somebody in a red shirt with a red logo, and the red logo was just completely gone. All right, and then lastly, post-production. Now I'm not, like I said, this super whiz when it comes to like post and like giving you like all the details or whatever. But so when I'm looking at post-production, whether if I'm doing just like simple portraits or maybe some campaign work, I always look back for to film as a reference. Like, how would this look if I shot on film? Now, in today's age, a lot of people, they're going to sell you different presets that you can, this is going to make your film look like Pro 400H or Ectar or Ektachrome. Like, honestly, I'm not trying to sit here and just try to replicate, the same exact look, but I want to have some kind of references, for it. So whenever I'm shooting Fuji, I know that Fuji is maybe a bit higher on like the greens and the purples and the blues. So maybe if I'm doing a campaign shoot for Fubu and I see that there's a lot of green that's in there, maybe I want to highlight that a little bit more and give it some kind of ambiance. Maybe give it a green fade. To whereas though if I'm looking here on the image that's on the right, I might think of Kodak Portrait. Maybe try to even out the tones. Maybe give a little bit more color in her, the pigment, of her skin. Maybe desaturate or play with the luminescence of the greens to kind of bring it down. And I think that, going back to even like the book Flavor, that gives you a reference of different film color looks and how you can possibly achieve that. And that's where I get a lot of my inspiration from whenever I'm trying to, edit a particular photo and give it a particular feel. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, that's the end of the my lecture. But if you guys do have any kind of questions for me, I can hopefully answer them for you. Like I said, I don't come into here thinking that I'm a master of all. I'm still a student. So, and I feel like even stepping into film, I'm learning something new every day, every single day. But does anybody have any questions?
If you're not processing your own film, where you get it done?
All right, so for black and whites, I do process at home, right in my kitchen. But if I'm not processing, my colors or whatever, which I'm not like in the correct environment because I have a child and I don't want him to come in contact, with some of those harsh chemicals. But I'm based out of Jersey, so there's other labs that are out there that people may be able to like access that's closer to me. I know that B&H has a lab here as well, right?
The process, we outsource it, but you can bring your film to B&H to process it. There's a number of labs in the city.
Yeah, there's a number of labs, and for my slide film, I actually go to a place called Vista. I think they're on East 39th. I've got some great results from them, like when I'm shooting Ectochrome, and I love my slides, and can't do nothing wrong with them. So I mean,
If you shoot
yeah.
color, so if you shoot slide film, Vista, CRC, they actually outsource to Color House.
Okay, yeah.
So
So
Color House does all the, like, so, yeah,
Yeah.
they do all the slide film processing in New York.
any other questions?
So in regards to people who haven't shot film, so you have somebody who shoots only digital, what benefit do you see for somebody to maybe try and film out as far as in regards to their photography in general? Why would somebody say want to go shoot film if they're only shooting digital?
I mean, like I said, particularly if somebody wanted to go from digital to shooting film, I mean, first of all, it's going to test their skill level. Like I said, when I first got into film and I started shooting, I thought I was, this is a piece of cake. It's going to be fine. It really showed that I didn't have any skill at all and I still needed to learn. So I feel like if you're looking for a learning experience, like I feel like in general, if you're not learning in each and every process of photography, you might as well not you may not have the time for anything else because there's so much to learn within photography. There's more than just developing black and whites, developing colors. There's different kinds of printing types. Whether if you know tint types or bichromate types, or maybe doing like platinum plate printing or anything of that nature. So there's so much to learn in photography that we don't know, that I don't know, that I want to get more into, so that way I can be a little more versatile because it is an art form. I mean, of course, some of us, we do make money off of it, and that's strictly for what it is, but I like to be on both ends. I like to make money from my photography, but I also like the art form of it. That's what makes me fall more in love with photography. Film has made me fall more in love with photography because it reinvigorated my passion for it. And this is why, like I said, when I had this in my hand, like I said, I just want to go out and shoot. I just want to go out and shoot. I don't really care too much about, like the after product, but it's just the actual process of going out there, trying to compose this image properly, and then looking back at it. And like I said, that's the benefit you can get from when you're shooting with film. He had his hand up first. What's going on? Sorry.
So for your clients, do they understand or do they request your film versus digital?
Yeah, I've definitely have had clients that wanted film, but like for like those type of clients that want to shoot with film, I'll switch over to like a medium format because you're going to get a lot more quality from it. Like, granted, I mean, yeah, it may take a little bit longer, for the actual film to develop because a lot of places they don't have 1 hour, a 1 hour turnover time. So, but I feel like once they understand, like the passion and like they have respect for your craft and they enjoy your film work, that's when they'll just go ahead and say, hey, I want to shoot film today.
How do you justify the economics of shooting film versus digital for your personal work?
For my personal work, well, like I said, you can go into, say if you go into B&H and you want to, get the latest Sony camera, which I know that they came out with the A7R4. I believe that the pricing is 3,500. And I feel like with me buying film, well, first of all, there's so many other economical ways for you to shoot film and still keep money in your pockets by bulk loading film, by developing at home, because a lot of those development costs cost a lot, especially for black and white. A lot of places they charge $25, $15, just for you just to develop one roll. That may not even include scanning or doing prints. So there's definitely different other ways of saving money with film. So like I said, bulk loading by rolling it up yourself, buying the film. Like I said, you can get, for like $50, you can get like a 100-foot roll of film. And all you have to do is get the canisters, roll them up yourself, and then you're just right there. You're supplying yourself without having to, maybe travel all the way out. Like I said, I'm from Newark, so there's not that many like film shops that's around me. So I do come to B&H and I do stock up on film a lot. But yeah, even Derek here, he has like a little film thing that he's got going on too, where we actually bulk load the film. So I feel like there's a lot more economical ways. I feel as though like when I'm shooting film and my actual like backlog now, I haven't even touched $3,500, and I feel like maybe under 1,000.
What was one of the most difficult parts about developing your own film?
The most difficult part is getting the film out of the canister and onto that reel. Like, listen, I had like this little specialty film that it was like hand rolled, but it was just super thin. And as I'm trying to put it onto the actual reel, it's just slipping off. And it's like I'm sitting there for about, I want to say almost 45 minutes trying to put one roll of film into that reel. And that was the most horrifying experience. Like, do you just imagine, like, because you don't necessarily have to be in a dark area to load your film onto the actual reels, but you have something that's called a changing bag. It almost looks like a little raincoat that you just stick your hands in. And so I'm there and I'm like, pop up the film, no problem. Taking the film out, no problem. Cutting it, no problem. Putting it onto the reel, it's just like it kept slipping. It didn't move. And I'm just sitting here for like 45 minutes. I'm like, can this just please just get in there? Like, help me, like help me, please. But I feel like for that role, I was like, you know what? Let me just figure out another way, and I'll deal with it later. But I feel like that's the hardest part about it, just getting the film onto the actual reel. Oh, what was your question?
How many rolls do you shoot a month, and do you scan them yourself?
Last time I counted like 30. It was like almost like a roll a day, maybe even twice that, because like I said, I'm just so inspired just by shooting film, and I want to get out there, because with being in Newark, it doesn't get a lot of the right attention, and that's what I'm just trying to portray in in my images. So I feel like whenever I'm going out into Newark, I know that regardless if I seen Jimmy and Joe 50 million times on the same block, I know that there's something that's different every day, and I'm going to capture that. Just like with that kid and him going over his father's, like I would have never caught that if I didn't go outside and I kept shooting. So even if my ratio, let's say if I have 36 shots in a row and I only like 12 of them, I'm like, well, that's still pretty good. At least I'm going out there and I'm attempting to capture that correct image, and capture those images that I love and I think that are iconic to me. So every day I'm on it. Like even on the way here, I'm just like, what can I be curious about and get today? What can I capture today? Like I said, even at night. Like I said, listen, when I got this M6, I immediately wanted to go out and straight shoot. I wanted to go out like immediately. Soon as FedEx came up to my door, got this from B&H, by the way. But as soon as it came up to my door, I sat outside. I was like, listen, I'm ready to fly out of here and go out and just go shoot, because that camera inspired me so much just to go out a little bit more.
Is your creative process different when you film versus digital? You go into a shoot the same way?
I don't think no. It's definitely different because like I said, to be honest, when you shoot digital, you can just shoot the image and it'll be no problem. If you mess up, I can just go there. But whenever I'm out shooting, and especially in the street, I'm being conscious about what am I trying to capture. I can't just come around here and just keep capturing like the same people just like walking or whatever. It's like super boring. Like I have to like actually stop, look, and think about what exactly am I trying to compose, and is it the right thing to compose for me and what I'm trying to portray. So I feel like with film, it slows you a lot, like a lot. Like it slows you down a lot because you only have but so many shots within that roll. So let's say if you're like shooting digital, you're just spraying and praying that you catch anything. Film is going to be like, it's not happening. You have to be a lot more focused. Sorry, he had to say. I'll get to you.
So I've been trying to capture my community a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
I come from the Bronx, I live on Red Hill. And it's been a process because people are like automatically like, oh, you can take a picture of me.
Mm-hmm.
Me doing feds.
Listen.
I'm assuming that you being from Newark, right?
Yeah, Newark.
It's kind of the same.
It's definitely the same because whenever I'm shooting downtown Newark, like I have to be on my P's and Q's. I have to watch who's around me. Because you're from that environment, you know what's going to be happening around there. But I feel like if you come off respectively to them, then it'll be no problem. Because like I said, there's a few guys, like I said, they were super big guys or whatever, and they sell oils on like off a broader market. I remember shooting one time or whatever. One guy, he was like, "Yo, like, don't take a picture of me. I'm Muslim. It's against my religion. Don't take a picture of me." And I was like, "All right, cool. I won't do it." But I feel like he may have only said that because I just ran up on him and I may have took that picture of him. But coming back to that same area and meeting another guy, selling oils, I was like, "Hey, is it okay if I can actually take your portrait? I'm trying to show a different side of Newark because I don't like what the media is portraying about my city that I love." And I feel like once you come off respectively to like that, then they'll feel like, okay, you're not trying to exploit me. You're not trying to make fun of me. But even just like when you're walking up on somebody, complimenting them. Because I feel like whenever we walk outside, we may subconsciously fish for, compliments or anything of that nature. And just by saying, "Oh, I like your shirt. It's okay if I can take a portrait of that." And then that kind of like lets their guard down. So even when I'm doing that in Newark. Oh.
Just real quick, if you're just trying to capture without the
Oh, like pretty much like before I got the M6, I had my R5 and my Canon net. Now with this, it's a little bit harder to just maybe come like right here and like take a shot and that's it. But with the Canon net, seeing that it was a rangefinder and it was a lot smaller, it was a lot easier because I can just come like maybe like right here, like, oh, I just want to capture them in their natural essence, just them being them. I just want to capture this. So I may just come like right here. I may even just put the camera up, my eye to the viewfinder, and I'll just get that. But in Newark, it's a lot harder. In New York, I mean, pretty much people are like, zoned in, just going straight, not worried about whatever. But it's like when you're in Newark, they'll pull up on you like, "Hey, like I need you to delete that. Don't come around here taking no more pictures." Like I said, I have a lot of stories about just me trying to capture Newark and the reactions I get, but they're all right though.
I was gonna say, following up on that last point, shooting has shooting film informed your digital shooting as well. So for me personally, it's meant I've actually lowered my volume of digital shots.
Yeah. It's like you're just more focused on, like I said, not just holding the shutter down and just praying that you capture something, but just being conscious about what exactly am I trying to capture that's right here. Because, all right, you can go out, take 3,000 shots at whatever event, but you may have like the same shots over and over and over and over and over again, and you're just like, why didn't I just take that one shot that one time or twice, and that'll be it. It's there's no reason for you to just keep taking, like holding the shutter down and it just spraying. There's no reason for that. Any other questions?
Okay, maybe somebody is really intimidated by everything you just said about
Mhm.
shooting film Is there like a starter way to? Is it like a starter camera or a starter like type of? Or you kind of you just jump right into the.
Well, like I said in the first slide, well, when we talked about understanding your camera, you have to find something that's going to inspire you. So even though you may come into, trying to figure out, a film camera, just buy the film camera that looks good to you, that makes you that inspires you to shoot. Because like even though I had that Canon AE1, I'm just like, man, this thing is big. Looks like any other regular camera, but switching over to that Canonette, I was like, this is a little something different. It looks good. I like the ergonomics of it. It fits good in my hand. And I'm just gonna go out and shoot. Forget about it. I'm just gonna notate everything that I'm gonna do, and I'm just gonna get right into it. So I feel like whenever you're doing your research on it, just find something that looks interesting for you. Maybe go into like a thrift shop. Hey, maybe even come here like the B&H. You might find like an actual camera that fits good in your hand that you actually may like, and say, hey, you know what? This is my camera. Even though everybody else may have it, this is mine. Let's try it out first. Sorry, the gentleman in the back.
I have a question about something you said, like people with me, those have been trying to get into the film.
Listen, I kept, it's like I had this and I kept throwing it at him. I kept throwing it at him. I'm like, I need you to start shooting film.
So what helped me out was getting like a regular point and shoot from like disposables.
Right.
Like your nearest photo store, like you said, being have so.
Like I said, even if you have this in your hand and you feel comfortable with it, I feel like I can take the best shots of my whole entire life. Stick with it.
And I have an 81 now that I shoot with. It's a film. It's another type of film camera that I found.
I mean, well, like I said, if you want to like start with recommendations, I mean, maybe start off with a Canon A1 program, because I know that's considered like the student camera, maybe a Pentax K1000. I mean, hey, listen, like the A1 was pretty okay for me, but what really just like kicked me off a ledge was that Canonette, because I was like, this inspires me so much. I love the look of it. It's a rangefinder. It's different. It's different from what I've been shooting with for my whole entire career, with an SLR, and I wanted to try something different. So.
We do have a great youth film department for anybody who is either starting or already is immersed in film. So Brent, I don't know anybody, so the guy that was standing here for a little bit, Brent is one of our guys that works in our youth film department. Not
Shout out to Brent.
Not curious. don't go with any questions. But down the ramp to the right, we do have a great youth film department. The guys are very knowledgeable, and for your question, that would be a great place to start, as far as they will pick your brain as far as what you want to shoot, what your budget is, what Chris was talking about, what you're comfortable with. They'll do a great job of figuring out you and what camera is right for you. And there's cameras, for film cameras, you can start at as low as $20, $30, $40.
Yeah.
It's a very, very, very inexpensive to get going.
Like I said, well, I know that you're in Newark and that you're around like the area. So let's say if you do go into a thrift shop and you say, hey, I don't want to spend too much. I don't want to spend $50 on a film camera if I'm just going to be doing it for fun. If you find something that's 20, like I can take a look at it for you, because I mean I've been around film cameras for so long. So if you find one that say, hey, I like this, but I'm not sure if it's going to work or anything like that. I don't know the ergonomics of it. I don't know if it's going to shoot right. Let me know. I'm here. No problem. So we had this gentleman right here. So we're going to go boom, boom, boom. All right?
Peace, brother.
What's going on? How are you, man?
Good, man. So I got a two-part question.
Okay.
And firstly, congratulations on the FUBU collaboration that you did.
Thank you, man. I appreciate you, man.
So my first part of the question is, what is your why? You probably answered it already. I just walked in. I want to know, like, what is your why for shooting?
So I'm from the birthplace of film. That's why, man. Like I said, well, not even that, but it's just that, I'm so passionate about it and just challenging myself. I feel like from the start, that was just my biggest thing, because I know you weren't here from like the first time or whatever, but just me getting into film and then failing, like not getting any images at all, that kind of wanted me to push myself and just say, hey, you know what, I'm not going to let this failure defeat me. It's going to help. Pretty much that failure was a stepping stool. And now I'm here. I'm speaking to you guys about film. And I feel like anybody that's in this room can really, like I said, if you take the time to really just study everything, like even though you may like know something already, just delete it from your brain and just come off just fresh and new. Just come as a student. I feel like you should do that with anything in life. You should just be a student. So whether if I know about ISO or shutter speed or aperture, I'm just gonna act like I don't know anything. I'm just gonna go right back to the beginning point, and that's what kind of helped me, to where I am now. Like I said, I'm still learning everything. Like I said, I'm like right now I'm trying to get into large format photography. So really taking my time, not going out street shooting, really thinking about the image and how am I trying to compose it. What was your other question?
My second part is, how do you see your work like aging? Do you see it being something that people are gonna look back on 10, 15 years from now? Because I kind of liken your style to like a Jamel Savaz. Like, what he was doing was like casual. He was doing it, shooting his friends, and then he started developing a body of work. Now, I don't know if anybody's talking about it in this vein, but his work is gonna be what, archival type of work, like what New York looked like before. All the changes is going on. So do you see your work being in that kind of vein? Like, people are going to be looking at these and referencing these things in textbooks. Like, this is old Newark, this is old so. Are you like cognizant of that, or are you not even?
Right. So when I think of my work, 10, 15, 20 years from now, I do think that's going to be, in some way, monumental, because there's not a lot of people who's, going, into communities and just having casual conversations with somebody downtown Newark. There's little to like no people that's really going into that actual area within Newark, just trying to just capture it within a different light, rather than what they see on national TV about Newark. Newark is crime ridden. People get murdered. There's nothing great out there, when there's actually a big culture that's out there, and there's so many great things that you can do in Newark. It's just that the media just overshadows it, and I'm just like, listen, only the time is who's going to tell. That's all I'm really just worried like that. I'm not worried about, but focused on just really just telling just a proper story about Newark and who the people that are here. Because right now, like I said, we have an issue, issues of gentrification and natives being pushed out. But it's just like, listen, these people I'm gonna make sure they're remembered. I don't care what happens. They're gonna be remembered, whether if I put it in a book or not, or whether if I'm putting it on social media or not. You're gonna remember this person that was here.
This may be a little off topic. You developing in your kitchen.
Yeah.
How much retrofitting did you have in terms of that ventilation, the chemicals?
I mean, like I said, my kitchen is like an open area, and I can just like flick on like the little ventilation system like over the stove, and I won't like have any issues with that. I mean, I just know that with the color chemicals, it can be super serious, and I'm just like, what, I'd rather just wait to go to a lab and try to do that where they have perfect ventilation, because like I said, I have a child, he's 9, and sometimes whenever I'm like floating around trying to develop, I'm like, nope, gotta move. So that being said, I'm just.
So do you take your chemicals to, how do you?
You can like do like proper waste. I know like they'll do like silver like recycling and things of that nature. Like I said, I know that with the organization that there's a nonprofit called the Newark Print Shop. They actually have a dark room, so they have a recycling system that I can actually just dump it in. And yes.
Thank you very much for your talk. I really appreciate it. It's inspiring, and your work is beautiful. I just had one resource I wanted to share. Maybe it's kind of like the memo book that you have, but it's on an app called Analog. And I've been shooting film again for the last 2 years, and it's really cool. You can type in your roll of film, the camera you're using.
I think I know what you're talking about. I think I had it at first.
Your f-stop and shutter speed, and you can even add a note, and it pulls in the GPS if you let it. And
I do know what you're talking
you
about.
can pull like the file for that roll of film down and send it to your computer or whatever, and look at it again later like that. So it's a pretty cool app called Analog.
No, listen,
Just announce that just for the live stream viewers that couldn't hear. Just announce
Okay.
the name of the app.
All right. So pretty much everybody who's watching live stream, he was basically talking about an app that you can use to actually notate your film shots. You can log in the roll of film, the ISO, shutter speed, f-stop. What was it called again?
It's called Analog.
It's called Analog. So I think that may be on the App Store or whoever your provider is. Yeah, iPhone. So, yeah, but I know exactly what you're talking about. I tried that, but I felt as though for me, writing it hands-on was a little bit better because I feel like I manifest a lot more things when I write it down. So,
I appreciate that.
no, it's no problem. Listen, I appreciate you for coming out, man, and taking your time out. Any other questions or anything of that nature? All right, guys. Well, if that's all for today, I truly appreciate you guys for coming out. I want to thank B&H for hosting this event and giving me the ability to talk and to share this information with you guys. And like I said, guys, just keep shooting. Don't stop. Don't give up on yourself. You can do anything that you put your mind to. Believe that.